La Encantadora, the Enchantress. Music from Venezuela, played by flutist Marco Granados and friends from his CD called Music of Venezuela. And Marco, you were saying that even though La Encantadora, that piece we just heard, is not directly related to Christmas, that's kind of the mood and sound and instrumentation that you would have heard, that you would have been a part of during those Christmas celebrations back home in Venezuela.
Yes. So La Encantadora is based on a gaita rhythm, and the gaita rhythms use a lot of drums during the Christmas season. It's just really catchy and driven and happy.
Ah, that's an amazing sound, and I love that that's part of the Christmas celebration. And you said some of those traditions are disappearing in the area where you grew up. Why is that going away?
I mean, a lot of it, unfortunately, has to do with the political situation in Venezuela and just the sheer lack that people are experiencing, like basic stuff, like basic needs and basic foods. And people are having a really difficult time even just getting enough food to live. My parents are living in Caracas, and my sister also lives there. And usually if you live in a city, you can sort of manage a little bit better, but the whole situation in Venezuela is just really, really difficult at this time.
I'm so sorry to hear that, and that you've got friends and family still back there. Do you know how they're doing this as we enter this Christmas season?
Well, I just recently spoke to my mom, and, she's just trying to keep her spirit up, but she says that it's just really, really hard.
Well, here's best wishes to your family and friends. Despite those terribly difficult circumstances, I hope that this Christmas season can have some measure of celebration for them.
Yes. Yeah, that is my hope too.
Are there any of those Christmas traditions from Venezuela that you described from your childhood that you still carry with you today in your life here in the U.S.?
Every year, my family, we try to get together. And when we all gathered together last year, my dad brought his violin and was able to play a few tunes. Unfortunately, my family at this time will not be able to travel. But I still try to incorporate playing my flute and sharing my flute with my American family, the family of my wife. And so during Christmas, I will try to play my flute for them. A traditional Christmas carol from Venezuela. It's called Si la Virgen fuera andina, or If the Virgin was from the Andes. Venezuelan flutist Marco Granados played that Venezuelan carol, that Aguinaldo, just for us, just for today's show. Many thanks to Marco Granados for sharing his Christmas season memories about music and roller skating and everything else. More about roller skating in a moment. You can see the full list of the music Marco shared with us on our website, yourclassical.org/performance today. Until I spoke with Marco, I never knew about the Venezuelan Christmas tradition of roller skating. All over Venezuela, towns and cities close streets for midnight mass during the holiday season. So how to get to church? Well, on roller skates, of course. It's become a national phenomenon in Venezuela.
All right, 22 minutes now after 10 o'clock, and we're going to get into the next segment of. Oh, I love that. I love that Charlie Brown music. We're going to get into the next segment of performance today momentarily. That's the Canadian Brass playing, by the way. Very popular group. So for some reason, this time of year, it could be just because they have so many Christmas CDs. But in any case, glad to have you along today. This is our December food bank, food backpack campaign. This is only the third time that we have done this. And of course, we're raising money for Red River Radio, but we're also in the process raising some funds for the food banks of Northwest Louisiana, Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. And we do this because we have some wonderful sponsors. They are writing the checks to the food bank, but they are challenging you. If we get 800 contributions, they will write checks for at least 2,400 food backpacks for hungry children in our area. So that's some pretty exciting stuff going on. Last year we did 1,800. We have to do this. We have to complete this by midnight on Friday. That's the challenge. So as of now, we have had 153 backpacks. That means we have less than 2,250 to go. And we've been counting down. That's what we're going to do. We're going to count down to zero by the time we're at the end of this drive on Friday. So call now, 800-552-8502. Make a contribution of any amount, and you will also help generate 3 food backpacks for hungry kids in need. And you think, well, you know, are there really that many kids around that need that help? And the answer is absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. Joining me in the studio is Madeline Merrick, who is the executive director of the Martial Arts Council, but also very closely related to the executive director of the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank, who is Martha Merrick. So you can see that connection there in the name. And Madeline, it's great to have you here. And I know this is kind of your first time on the air for something like this, but also the needs of hungry kids. Your knowledge of that runs in the family.
It does. It definitely does. Thank you, Kermit.
And why don't you talk a little bit about that? Talk about what, and you know from your mom, so your mom's the executive director of that, about how big the need is in the area.
Definitely. 1 in 6 individuals in Central Louisiana are food insecure, and the food bank does everything they do to just increase their yield, increase the number of pounds, the number of food, reach out to communities. Really, if you think of a food bank as almost a distributor of food, like a warehouse, they're really partnering with community members, pantries, churches, groups that can then reach the individual. So they're really crucial to that process of getting food out to those who are then on the ground and have greater access to individuals.
Now the food backpacks, and someone just asked just a little while ago, well, what's in these backpacks? And let me explain first of all. So these are kids that have been basically determined to be in need, usually by people who are in the school system, where they know that if it wasn't for the food programs in the school, meaning the breakfasts and the lunches that are in the schools, these kids would be totally going hungry. But then you got to think of yourself, okay, well, if they're getting their food in school, what happens when school is out? On the weekends, on the holidays, and that's where the food backpack program comes. I do have some facts here. So Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana last year packed over 44,000 of these food backpacks. East Texas Food Bank packed over 180,000 backpacks of foods for kids last year. Senla is about 36,000. And, I mean, you think about that. That is a lot of kids who have no idea where their next meal is coming from.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's great the way the program works. Teachers, administrators in the schools identify the students as, maybe they're not paying attention like they used to in school. Maybe their attendance is low, they're sick a lot. They are the ones that are identifying these students as being in need. And then very discreetly, it's brought to the attention of the food bank. And the way that the backpack program works is there's no stigma attached to needing food, and there's you're not singled out as a student, labeled as you're in this program. It's very considerate to the students, and that everyone needs a little help every once in a while. So it's a great program.
And you think, of course, the need is there all year round, but since we're at the end of a calendar year, a lot of people are thinking of making contributions, maybe for tax reasons, that type of thing. And of course, then there's that Dickens quote that it's the time of year when need is most keenly felt. And so we're trying to do something with that. It depends on you. It's all up to you. Our partners have challenged us to get 800 contributions in between now and midnight Friday. So we've already done over 50 of those. That is about 6% of the number of people that we need to call in. We've got if we stay on schedule, we're definitely going to make that goal if we do as we have done so far. So call now 800-552-8502. And I think, Madeline, you have someone there to thank.
I do. We'd like to thank Deborah Davis of Shreveport. She enjoys the programming on weekdays at 7 p.m. and we really thank her for contributing and adding to this great drive.
Yeah, that's one more call. That's 3 more backpacks. We're going to get back into performance today. Madeline and I will be back here shortly. Call now, 800-552-8502.
The Sonata for Viola and Piano by Brazilian composer Andrea Memari. He played piano with Tatiana Chamis on viola. Tatiana Chamis is the associate principal violist in the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Back in 2012, she took a sabbatical in Brazil, where her husband was born. She spent that year collaborating with Brazilian musicians and collected several works for viola by Brazilian composers. She met Andrea Memari during that year in Brazil, and he wrote that viola sonata just for her. In a moment, Christmas in Venezuela with pianist Gabriela Montero. You're listening to APM's Performance Today.
And you're listening to Performance Today on your public radio station. This would be Red River Radio. Good morning to you. I'm Kermit Poling, General Manager here at Red River Radio. And Madeline Merrick, who is the Executive Director of the Marshall Arts Council, Marshall Regional Arts Council, what we call MRAC over there, is also in the studio with me here, and we are in our food backpack campaign. What happens here is for every contribution, and it can be of any amount, for every contribution, our partners will in turn generate 3 food backpacks for hungry children throughout our region. And they do this through the food banks of Northwest Louisiana, Central Louisiana, and also the East Texas Food Bank. Last year we did about 1,800 of those food backpacks. Our goal this year, well, it's a big goal. It's 2,400. But we're doing this over 3 days, and we have every confidence that we're going to get the 800 contributions that we need to be able to generate those backpacks. One call supports 4 organizations. So call now 800-552-8502. And Madeline, you have some people there to thank?
I do have some great listeners to thank. Susan Bettinger of Shreveport. She enjoys, of course, public radio as a reliable source for news. We appreciate her contribution. Also, Mara Trotter of Alexandria, Louisiana. Yeah, and she really enjoys the classical music, opera, and jazz that you can hear right here. Oh, and one more, the page stuck. Arden Kennedy of Shreveport, Louisiana. He's very committed to helping the food backpack program for children, and that's exactly why we're here today.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mentioned during the last break that the sheer number of these food backpacks that go out to children in the area. Now think about this. Northwest Louisiana, over 44,000 backpacks last year. East Texas Food Bank packed over 180,000 backpacks of food, and they cover a huge area. The Food Bank of Central Louisiana packed over 36,000 for kids, and these are easy to eat foods. This is for those weekends when schools aren't in session. They can't even get a school lunch. On holidays, you know, you think if the schools are off for a week or whatever they are during the holidays, what do those kids who depend on those lunch programs and breakfast programs in the schools, what do they do? Well, this is one way that the food banks have stepped up to take care of these kids, and that's why it's so important. You know, most of us, I think, are sitting around worrying about, oh wow, all this turkey, what am I going to do with the leftovers? You know, it's a challenge, and you know, it's the reality of the situation that we have so many that are in need, and that's what we're trying to do, is try to improve the situation somewhat, right, Madeline?
Definitely.
Give us a call at 800-552-8502. And, of course, Madeline mentioned earlier that, of course, your mom is the executive director of the food bank here. So, you know, have you, you know, over time, I mean, did you get involved helping her at all with the food bank? What did
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about it. It comes up at home a lot.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, and just strategizing new ways of educating, of getting the word out, just kind of explaining what a food bank is. I think is a lot of it just the knowledge of what they do, packing boxes, volunteering in food drives, you know, just their annual fundraiser of the empty bowls is a great way for people to come out and support. But I think that the biggest thing really is explaining what it means to be food insecure, and that it doesn't look so odd and obscure. It happens right here. It happens, you know, to people that you know, and it doesn't take much, you know, to become food insecure. It's just, you know, a job, you know, that you got laid off from for a few months. It's you know, a child that has an illness. It really doesn't take a lot to become in that position, and I think that's what we talk about. My mom and I have it. You know, it's students. It's you know, BIPSI just started a great pantry with their Rotaract. You know, they noticed that students in college starting those first years, that's an easy way, you know, to see yourself becoming, you know, student debt and all the costs of books and things like that, that it's almost, you know, you can see yourself becoming in that position, and it doesn't seem so foreign or far away.
Sure. Well, you have a way of doing something about that right now by making a contribution of any amount to Red River Radio at 800-552-8502, or go online at redriverradio.org. And for every contribution, we're adding up the numbers of contribution. Any dollar amount, that's totally up to you. But the number of contributions, if we get 800 contributions between now and midnight Friday, that will generate 2,400 of these food backpacks for kids. Now, you still qualify if you make, for example, an $80 contribution. You can take something like the lighted silver Christmas ornament that we have. We have the day sponsorships at $150, umbrellas, you know, all of the usual thank you items. We still have those. So it's like another drive in that regard. It's also, you know, a contribution to Red River Radio is a tax-deductible contribution. So keep all of that in mind and go ahead and make the call, and let's generate some more food backpacks. I'll get a new total here in just a little bit. 800-552-8502. Call now.
Oh, what an ending. And you can hear the audience in the town of Frutillar, Chile, love that at the Teatro del Lago. A concert in Patagonia, in Chile, the YOA Orchestra of the Americas, led by Carlos Miguel Prieto, and the composer herself was at the piano, Gabriela Montero, playing that final movement from her own Latin concerto. Gabriela, that's an amazing piece.
Thank you. I wrote it in a flash of inspiration, let's say. I really wanted to bring the Latin American idiom to my world of classical music and to contribute through the rhythms and the harmonies and the spirit that I know and that I love so much, and it's really in my blood, to what is the classical repertoire, and to do a cross-pollination. Instead of the Europeans coming to us, it's us now coming to the other side of the world with our language and our experiences as Latin Americans.
Gabriela, you're speaking to me from your home in Barcelona. What's Christmas like in Barcelona?
To be honest, we have only spent half a Christmas here in Barcelona since we moved here. We generally spend it in the north of England with my husband's family, which is a very different Christmas because I am exported from Venezuela to all these different countries, and I've spent Christmas in so many different countries. It never feels 100% like it's home. For me, the Venezuelan Christmas is home. And who knows when I'll be able to spend a Christmas at home again. But for now, Barcelona and its people creates that beautiful human blanket of warmth and caring that is very important to me.
You mentioned that you hope to be able to go home to Caracas someday, and it's just worth mentioning that in addition to playing the piano and composing, this has been a real focus for you, talking about the current situation and the desperation in Venezuela, and that you've been named an honorary consul of Amnesty International. You've been honored by the Human Rights Foundation for your work, that your music connects with that as well. And thank you for that side of your work as well.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you for mentioning that. I think it's so important that we all use our voice to speak about issues that are important to us. And I will continue to fight for justice for as long as I can with my music and with my whole being.
Gabriela Montero, Merry Christmas, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Fred. Merry Christmas to all of you, and I hope that next year is the best one yet.
And if you'd like to watch that performance of Gabriela Montero's Latin Concerto, check out the video. It's up right now on the PT page on Facebook. Where are you spending this holiday season? Any special music in your plans this year? Or any musical traditions in your winter holidays? I'd love to hear about them. You can write to me by clicking the contact button on the PT page. That's yourclassical.org/performance today. pianist Gabriela Montero improvising around Sheep May Safely Graze by Johann Sebastian Bach.
And you are listening to member-supported Red River Radio, a public radio service of LSUS. This is KDAQ, Shreveport, Bossier City, KLSA, Alexandria, Pineville, KBSA, El Dorado, Magnolia, KLD and Lufkin, Nacogdoches, and KTYK, Overton, Tyler, Kilgore. Your public radio station. News headlines coming up in a little under 2 minutes from now. Madeline Merrick, the Executive Director of the Martial Arts Council, also in the studio with me here for one more break, but we'll make this a good one as we're working to raise money for Red River Radio, but also, thanks to our partners, provide food backpacks to hungry children in need. We're counting down. We started at 2,400. We have 2,235 to go. That's 745 more contributions, every contribution generating 3 of those backpacks. And you were talking about another point that you wanted to make about this a little bit off mic.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to talk a little bit about food banks and just kind of how they can reach out to the community. Every dollar that is donated directly to a food bank generates $10 of food. So that's really way beyond the average, what the average person could provide a person. The food banks have these incredible access and resources to donation programs from large distributors like your grocery stores and things. They have access to USDA foods and just your donation to a food bank is just above and beyond that initial dollar amount. They just have access to these immense resources. So
and you mean that as opposed to, you think, donate food to a food bank, but if you donate dollars to them, they can get much more food for that money, and that's what our partners are doing here, because they're writing the checks to the food bank. We've got to get right into news headlines. Madeline, I want to thank you again for being here. It's been great. Thanks for making your debut.
Thank you.
All right, and here's the number, 800-552-8502. Call now.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Spencer Johnston. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen is appearing before a federal judge in New York City at this hour. He's expected to learn his sentence after pleading guilty to financial crimes, campaign violations, and lying to Congress about negotiations for a Trump real estate project in Moscow. Defense attorneys are pleading for leniency, citing Cohen's cooperation with the government. A commission convened in the aftermath of the deadly shooting in Parkland, Florida, has released draft recommendations to improve school safety. NPR's Greg Allen reports commission members say school districts still aren't doing enough to keep students safe.
The 15-member commission includes law enforcement and school officials, as well as 2 parents of students killed in the February shooting at the high school in Parkland. At a meeting in Tallahassee, they began discussing directives on hardening schools, improving communications and security, and training all personnel on how to respond to an active assailant. They also have recommendations to improve communications and response by law enforcement and emergency medical teams. Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri says lawmakers may need to force school districts to adopt measures some have resisted.
Now, I can go on and on with this, but I'm not going to. But this culture has to change, because the environment of perfunctory compliance, the mindset that security is a pain on one side, is not acceptable.
The school safety recommendations will be delivered to Florida's governor and legislature next month. Greg Allen, NPR News.
Pope Francis has removed 3 cardinals from the council of his 9 advisors. NPR's Sylvia Poggioli reports 2 of them are at the center of sex abuse scandals in the Catholic Church.
The Vatican has announced that at the direct request of the members of the Council, Pope Francis has removed Cardinal George Pell of Australia and Francisco Javier Errázuriz of Chile, as well as Lauren Monsenuego Pasina of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Pell had been on indefinite leave from his job as the Vatican Economy Minister to defend himself from prosecution for historical offenses of child sexual abuse in Australia. Errázuriz was accused by Chilean victims of covering up the abuse of minors by other priests. The Vatican said the Pope had written to the 3 cardinals in October, thanking them for their work. Sylvia Poggioli, NPR News.
British Prime Minister Theresa May is facing a no-confidence vote in Parliament today over her handling of Brexit. Some members of her Conservative Party are opposing her plan to withdraw the country from the European Union. Speaking today in the House of Commons, May denounced a potential change in leadership and opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn.
All he wants to do is to create chaos in our economy
The UK is scheduled to leave the European Union in March. On Wall Street, the Dow was up 396 points, the Nasdaq Composite up 158, the S&P up 44. This is NPR News.
And you're listening to it all here on your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good morning, I'm Chuck Smith, and I just want to welcome everyone to our Christmas pledge drive. By the way, we are in the thick of things right now. This is day one of 3 days of asking you for your support, and your support will really go a long way. Not only will your contribution help your local public radio station, Red River Radio, but your contribution will automatically help 4 organizations at once. Not only will you be supporting your local public radio station, you'll be providing a backpack to one of each of these groups, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. This is our annual food backpack program. Why are we doing this? Well, you know, the community has a lot of what you call food insecure people. Did you know 1 in 5 people living in the Red River Radio listening area are food insecure? That simply means they don't have enough to eat, and an estimated 1/3 of those are children. And, you know, kids, when they go to school, they have their school lunch program or their breakfast programs and stuff like that. But during the holidays, for many of these kids, you know, this is their food safety line. And if they're not going to school, well, they just might not get enough nutrition during the holidays. And there is a great need. So give us a call, won't you, at 1-800-552-8502 and make a contribution in support of your local public radio station. And in return, we will provide a backpack of food to each of these 3 worthwhile organizations. We're trying to reach, or rather get 2,400 backpacks to distribute throughout our area, and with your help, we can do it. So please, give us a call now, 800-552-8502. In the studio with me, Mr. Jesse Gilmore. He's with the LSU Health Sciences Center, but actually more appropriately, is it the Ochsner Health System? What is it? What is it called these days?
I am still with the LSU Health Sciences Foundation, but we are, our partner hospital is now the Ochsner LSU Health Center over on Kings Highway, and also in Monroe, where we have the E.A. Conway facility. So it's a new name, but things haven't changed all that much, except we have an excellent, just fantastic partner that has the know-how how to run this type of hospital and the resources to make it happen and to support our efforts as an academic medical center. So.
And Ochsner, aren't they like one of the largest private employers in the state?
The largest private employer in the state is they have multiple facilities down in New Orleans, as well as Houma and a few other places across the Gulf South, that kind of I-10 corridor and below. So we are thrilled to have them on board up here. It's been a game changer already. I'm told they're going to invest millions of dollars per year, kind of upgrading some of our telehealth initiatives, as well as some physical property and plant and equipment that we need, improved at that hospital on Kings Highway. So,
well, you know, there was always a big concern is what was going on, you know, with the med school and all that. But now we've got a steady hand on the keel, so to speak, to keep things upright and shipshape. And I guess when it comes to health, Ochsner knows a thing or two.
They do. Again, it means so much to us to have a hospital partner that understands how to make the margins work when a majority of your patients are going to be Medicare, Medicaid, or even just folks coming in that don't have health insurance or anything. This is the safety net hospital for our region. We have patients coming to this hospital from 3 different states, never mind just the parishes here and surrounding it. So they have the know-how. They've run these kind of places before, and they are just darn excited to be up here in this market and excited to be associated with a medical school like ours.
Well, it makes the area stronger. And
Yeah.
you mentioned something, safety net. You know, when it comes to food insecurity, the organizations in the Red River Radio area, that listening area, that are the safety net for many, many families, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. And if you're listening to this message right now and you've been kind of sitting on the fence about maybe making a contribution in support of your local public radio station, why not consider how much further your contribution will go right now? We are trying to raise enough money to get 2,400 backpacks. So for every contribution we get right now, it helps us get a backpack, 3 backpacks in fact, and we're shooting for about 800 contributions. So give us a call, won't you, at 1-800-552-8502. That number again, 800-552-8502. Or if you'd rather do it online, go to redriverradio.org and click Donate at the top of the page and fill out the form. If you want to learn more about this program, go to our website, redriverradio.org, and click on our Backpack for Kids program, and it'll explain more than we have time right now. But please, this is a time of year when a lot of families, just don't simply have enough in the cupboard or in the refrigerator. And as hard as that is for many of us to fathom, we simply can't accept that. So please, help us do some good. Give us a call, 800-552-8502. We appreciate you listening, and we always thank you so much for your support.
concert overture by Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov called the Russian Easter Overture. And that recording featured the Seattle Symphony Orchestra conducted by Gerard Schwartz.
And I hope you're having a pleasant Wednesday. Good morning, I'm Chuck Smith, and we're coming to you from Red River Radio Studios in Shreveport to remind you that this is our Christmas pledge drive. It's our backpack drive, and what that means is if you call in and make a contribution in support of your local public radio station, not only will you be giving the gift of public radio, but you'll also help us feed a food insecure child over the holidays. Did you know that 1 in 5 families in the Red River Radio listening area are what you call food insecure? That simply means that they just don't always have enough to eat, and during the holidays that's a crunch time for many of them, because you know, kids generally when they go to school they'll have school lunches or breakfast programs and stuff like that, but during the holiday break for many of these children, well, they wind up doing without or with less food. So here's where you can help out, and you'll be helping 4 organizations. If you make a contribution right now to Red River Radio, not only will you be supporting your public radio station, but you'll also provide a backpack of food, one each to the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. And this is our holiday backpack program. So call now, won't you? 1-800-552-8502. Or you can go online at redriverradio.org. In the studio with me is Mr. Jesse Gilmore, and he's been a big help in the past during our pledge drives. And Jesse, for people who don't know who you are, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Chuck. My name is Jesse Gilmore. I work with the LSU Health Sciences Foundation. I've been a resident of Shreveport on and off for about 10 years now. Grew up in the Northeast in Massachusetts, but this has been my home, my chosen home. And I jumped at the opportunity to be on this drive. Just like I just said, I chose Shreveport to be home. But as a child, you don't really get to choose where you're born or the circumstances of your birth. And that's why something like this drive to fill backpacks of food for children, these are kids that they didn't have a choice to be born into poverty. In Caddo Parish, 20% of our families are below the poverty line. That means 1 out of 3 children are below the poverty line. And
that's in Caddo Parish.
Yeah, that's absurd. And it's something that we can actively do something about today. If you're listening to this station, you love public radio already. And I got a feeling you probably you care a lot about your community as well. And this is an excellent opportunity to knock out, to knock 2 birds with 1 stone, or actually I should say 4 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah,
Let's do some math here. And I think this is just such a worthy cause. Henry called me yesterday, and I moved mountains to be here today. And this is, I hope if you hear my voice today, you can call in and make another contribution.
That's right. The number to do that is 1-800-552-8502. And I need to give you an update right now at 11:15, or as of 11:15. So far, we've raised $4,290. 57 people have made a contribution. That means we have enough for 170 backpacks. We're trying to reach 2,400, so we need to get a total of 800 contributions, and we're whittling away at it. We got 3 days to do this, and so far 57 people have stepped up to make a contribution. So, if you can, pick up the phone and give us a call right now at 800-552-8502, or if you'd rather go online to redriverradio.org and click on the donate button near the top of the homepage and fill out the form. Either way, it's a fast, simple way for you to be a member of Red River Radio and to support your community through our backpack program. Jesse, I understand we have some people we need to shout out and say thanks to.
Yeah, I'd like to thank 3 of those 57 individuals. The first being Linda Serio from Bossier City. She made a nice contribution today. I also want to thank my dear friend, Dr. Randall Brewer. He made a very generous contribution today. He's been a longtime supporter of the station, host of Health Matters, just a real pillar of the community. And also I'd like to thank Brian McGrail from Nacogdoches, Texas, made a very generous contribution as well. So thank you, folks, for supporting the station and really supporting the neediest children in our community.
That's right. And, one other thing I want to point out is this is the season of giving. And, not only will you be giving to support your local public radio station, Red River Radio, but you'll be helping out, a vast array of people in our community. You know, we've got 3 other organizations you'll be helping out as well: the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. And all of these, when we reach 2,400 backpacks, that means each of these organizations will get 800 backpacks each, and that goes a long way. Imagine being a child on Christmas Day and, you know, waking up and maybe not having a full meal, or maybe you're only going to have 1 meal a day. You know, what a terrible thing to have to experience is to wake up on Christmas Day and you know, not be able to enjoy the holiday simply because you don't have enough to eat. So here's where you can do something about that. And I do want to point out also that if you make a contribution at certain levels, well, we've got something, a gift from us to you to say thank you for your support. If you make a $50 contribution, you can get a History Matters book by Dr. Gary Joyner. Dr. Joyner is featured on our morning edition once a week here on Red River Radio with his wonderful vignettes, History Matters. Perhaps maybe you like a pair of designer socks, Red River Radio designer socks. Well, that's at the $100 level. And we also have a new All Things Considered mug with the Red River Radio logo at $80. These are just some of the things that we have available at the different contribution levels. Our way of saying thank you. You can keep these for yourself, or hey, this might be a great way. We talked about 4 birds with one stone, 5 birds with one stone. Maybe one of these things you could give to someone as a gift during the holidays. So whatever you'd like to do, give us a call, please, at 1-800-552-8502, or go online to redriverradio.org. I have an update right now. So far, as of 11:20, we have raised $4,390. That's great. And that means 58 people have contributed. That means we have 173 backpacks. And so let's try to get 800 backpacks a day. We're trying to reach 2,400. I mean, if we can do that sooner, that would be wonderful. But let's try to get 800 backpacks today, okay? So far, we're at 173 so far. So if my math's correct, that's about 627 more to go for our daily goal of 800 backpacks. 2,400 backpacks total. Give us a call, won't you, at 800-552-8502. Jesse, do we have someone else to shout out to?
I do. I want to thank Mortiza Vaziri from Natchitoches, who made a very generous contribution. She likes All Things Considered, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and Car Talk, which I'm sad to hear is no longer making new episodes.
No, we're running the archives. One of the gentlemen who was on the show unfortunately passed away not long ago, and but yet it's still a very popular program.
It's still really funny. I enjoy it.
It is, and people love that. So give us a call, won't you? Make your charitable end-of-year gift in support of Red River Radio, and you can help 4 organizations at once: the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. We're trying to raise enough funds to provide 2,400 backpacks of food to food insecure children in the Red River Radio listening area. And we'd love to hear from our new listeners in Tyler, Texas at KTYK 100.7 FM. We've got a new station over there that's part of the Red River Radio Network, so we'd love to hear from our Tyler listeners. Why not give us a call at 800-552-8502. We appreciate you listening to Red River Radio. We appreciate your support, and thank you so much for everything you do to help us bring public radio and some backpacks to some food-needy kids over the holidays. Thanks again.
masterpieces of Franz Schubert, recorded by Murray Pariah and Radu Lupu. That is the Fantasia in F minor for one piano, four hands.
You're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good morning, I'm Chuck Smith. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. It's a little overcast out there, and I'm not expecting it to be much different later on in the day. I think we're getting some rain later on in the week, and we'll take a look at the weather here in a little bit. But right now, I want you to consider how often you tune into your local public radio station, Red River Radio, what it means to you to have this programming service available in your area each and every single day. You can always depend on Red River Radio to be there, whether it's for news and information, classical music, jazz, blues. We have live music from our performance studios throughout the week, and we also provide a whole bunch of different programs. Whether you're a history nut, you listen to History Matters by Dr. Gary Joyner, maybe Mysteries, Myth, and Lore with Dr. Cheryl White in the Shadow Files. Those are just two of the different programs we produce here locally. And, of course, people were tuning in, I believe, last night for Cliff Shackelford, for Bird Calls. And that's a strong program that we have here. And, these are things that are all possible because of contributions from listeners just like you who value their local public radio station and its programming and think enough of it to give us a call and make a contribution. So how about now? Give us a call, won't you, at 1-800-552-8502. Got some great volunteers standing by to take your call. Or if you'd rather go online and do it that way, it's simple to do. Go to redriverradio.org and click on the donate button near the top of the homepage and fill out the form. Either way, you'll not only be helping your local public radio station, but you'll be helping 3 food banks in our area. And here to tell us more about that is Jesse Gilmore, and Jesse's a longtime supporter of public radio, and he pops in from time to time to give us a hand. Jesse, we appreciate you coming in this morning.
It's my pleasure to be here. It's my honor to be here. I'm just really thankful this holiday season. My partner and I, we own a house in South Highlands here in Shreveport. We've got 2 beautiful dogs that know it. We have good jobs. We have a meal service that delivers our groceries, okay?
Oh, man.
So we have a lot of privilege, and we have worked hard.
Can I come eat at your house?
You can. I cook Blue Apron 3 times a week.
Okay.
It's pretty good. But we have a lot of privilege, and we are very thankful for what we have. But so many in our community don't have that. They're thankful for other things, I hope, but they are food insecure, especially a lot of children in our community. And I remember when I was a little kid, and I'm a little younger, Chuck, so maybe this was I remember this a little better than you do. I remember when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and when I was hungry, God bless my mother, because I wanted to eat as soon as possible. And I know I was able to grow strong and to grow smart and to be a pretty cool kid back then, because I didn't have to worry about that. My parents worked hard. We didn't struggle that much, but a lot of families in our communities in this listening area do. And I think about kids that go to school and they have assisted breakfast and they have assisted lunch from the state, but they go home and it's who knows. And this program with these backpacks, it goes a long way. It's food that kids can readily eat, that is nutritious, that is healthy, and it's food that they might not otherwise have. And to be able to support your public radio station, which if you're listening, I know you care, and to be able to give back to 2,400 children in this community.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool, guys. And it's a great opportunity to show what you're thankful for this holiday season.
That's true. So why don't you give us a call at 800-552-8502. Got some great volunteers standing by to take your call. I've got an update to share with you right now. As of 11:30, we have so far raised $4,515. 60 people have made contributions to allow us so far to offer 179 backpacks. And our goal for the 3 days is 2,400 backpacks. So we're trying to get at least 800 backpacks a day. What that simply means is when you make a contribution to Red River Radio, it doesn't matter whatever amount you make a contribution, we will be able to kind of do a co-op thing where we can provide a backpack of food to each of these following organizations: the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. So help us right now. Give us a call, 800-552-8502, or go online to redriverradio.org. You know, 1 in 5 people in the Red River Radio listening area are what you call food insecure, and an estimated of those are children, and that simply means that they don't always have enough to eat. And as Jesse mentioned a little while ago, you know, for them, the going to school, having a school lunch program or a early morning breakfast program, those programs are their lifeline to solid, nutritious meals. But during the Christmas holiday, when school is not in session, for many of these children, Christmas is a tough time food-wise. So won't you give us a call and make a contribution? You'll not only be supporting your local public radio station, but you'll be helping out with a worthy cause, helping provide a meal for a child during the Christmas holidays. And a backpack of food, it goes a long way. That's about a week's worth of food for a child during Christmas. And so if you're thinking about your holiday plans and how much you look forward to them, well, put your mind in that of a child's mind who doesn't necessarily know if they're going to have a hot meal that day. Give us a call, won't you, at 800-552-8502. We appreciate you listening to Red River Radio. We thank you so much for your support.
Music from 2015 by a Finnish composer that was written just before he died. He died in 2016. His name is Eino-Juhani Rautavaara. And he himself said after hearing that violinist play through it, "What beautiful music I composed." It's called a Fantasia, and Anna Kiko Myers played it there. She also gave the world premiere of the work. She was accompanied by the Philharmonia Orchestra, and the conductor was Christian Järvi.
And good Wednesday to you. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday, middle of the week. In the Red River Radio listening area, I'm Chuck Smith, normally on bright and early with Morning Edition local newscasts, but I'm manning the board this midday to remind you that this is our Christmas pledge drive, and this is we're doing a repeat of what we did last year. If you make a contribution in support of your local public radio station, Red River Radio, not only will you be supporting public radio, you'll be helping us provide not one, not two, but 3 backpacks of food to a food insecure child in the Red River Radio listening area. Basically, it's our backpack program. We partnered up with these different organizations, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. So if you call in and make, say, a $25 contribution right now, we will be able to provide 3 backpacks of food, enough to probably provide enough food for a child during the Christmas holidays for about a week. Keep in mind that 1 in 5 families in the Red River Radio listening area are what you call food insecure, and about a third of those are children. And for kids, you know, and who are from financially disadvantaged situations, school lunch programs and early morning breakfast programs, those are their lifelines to get nutritious meals on a daily basis. But during the holiday break, when school's not in, they may not have enough to eat during the Christmas break. So won't you help brighten up their Christmas holiday with a contribution to Red River Radio and allow us to provide a backpack of food for these kids? 800-552-8502. That's the number to call. We'd love to hear from you. In the studio with me, Mr. Jesse Gilmore. He's the Director of Development for LSU Health Sciences Center Foundation, or I'm probably not saying that quite correct. But
you got it close enough, Chuck.
Anyway, Jesse's a longtime supporter and volunteer here for Red River Radio, and he comes in and helps us out during our pledge drives. Jesse, we appreciate you coming in all the time, and again, many thanks to everything you do for the community. And by the way, I think we have at least a person to shout out to, don't we?
Yeah, I want to thank Ms. Mary Lou Wilshaw Watts from Nacogdoches, Texas. Nacogdoches being the hometown of Clint Dempsey, former captain of the United States men's national soccer team. Fun fact of the day.
Interesting.
But I love to hear from folks over at our stations out in East Texas and Nacogdoches especially. That's very cool that we have such a big listening area, and we influence so many communities. And it's great that we've established a partnership with food banks and really the main 3 areas of our listening area, Central Louisiana up here and Northwest Louisiana, and also East Texas.
That's right.
So
and
really
we have
cool.
a new station, by the way, on the air in the Tyler, Overton, Kilgore area, KTYK 100.7 FM. If you're listening on that now, welcome to the Red River Radio Network. And, that area was not served with a public broadcasting radio station, rather. So now's a good time for you to maybe start the ripple of contributions in Tyler, Overton, Kilgore. Give us a call, won't you, at 800-552-8502. We'd love to hear from our newer listeners over there. Let us know what you like about Red River Radio so far, and maybe you might have some ideas for us to consider as far as programs to put on the air. 800-552-8502. We're going to go into our news program here in just a moment with the BBC. But before we do, I need to remind you, you are listening to the voice of the community, Red River Radio, a public radio service of LSUS. This is 89.9 FM KDAQ, Shreveport, Bossier City, 90.7 KLSA, Alexandria, Pineville, 90.9 KBSA, El Dorado, Camden, Magnolia, 88.9 KLDN, Lufkin, Nacogdoches, and welcome to 100.7 FM KTYK, Overton, Tyler, Kilgore.
Election finance laws. In a statement to the court, Mr. Cohen said that time and time again he felt it was his duty to cover up for what he described as the dirty deeds of Mr. Trump, as Nick Bryant reports.
At times fighting back tears, Michael Cohen said he'd been in a state of personal and mental incarceration since the day he first started working for Donald Trump, and that the president was right to call him weak because he covered up what he called his dirty deeds out of a sense of blind loyalty. He said there was little to admire about Donald Trump. He apologized to the American people and promised to share as much information with the special counsel Robert Mueller as he could truthfully give. He also said he felt a sense of freedom, even though he was being sent to prison.
The British Prime Minister Theresa May has just addressed MPs from her Conservative Party who are now holding a no-confidence vote in her leadership. She had already warned them that now was no time for a change of leader, just months before Britain leaves the EU. At least 48 of her MPs triggered the confidence vote because they're angry about Mrs May's Brexit withdrawal agreement. Vicky Young is at Westminster, where the vote is taking place.
There are cabinet ministers and ministers I've been speaking to today who say, look, if she can get through this and she wins with a decent amount behind her, it does give her some more room for manoeuvre. But it doesn't solve, does it, how she gets that deal through Parliament. That is still a huge problem for her. I think it's also very striking that her spokesman said today that she does not regard this vote tonight as telling us anything about who leads the party into the next general election.
A militant Islamist who shot dead 3 people in the French city of Strasbourg is still on the run despite being wounded in an exchange of fire with soldiers. French anti-terrorist prosecutors say the gunman shouted "God is great" in Arabic as he shot people at a Christmas market. The Interior Minister, Christophe Castanet, praised the bravery of those who attempted to stop the attacker.
3 individuals, 3 citizens, tried to stop the assailant. One of them was stabbed. And this is where we see how some citizens, men and women, have the capacity to be heroic in exceptional moments. It's these everyday heroes, I believe, who contribute to the security of each and every person throughout France.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has made a dramatic appeal to countries to step up their efforts to fight global warming and its impact. Addressing the UN Climate Change Conference in the Polish city of Katowice, Mr. Guterres urged delegates from almost 200 countries to be more ambitious in their attempt to reach a deal. He warned them that failure would, as he put it, be suicidal. This is the World News from the BBC. The Syrian authorities say they found 7 mass graves containing the remains of hundreds of people in what used to be an Islamic State stronghold in the east of the country. Most of the bodies recovered so far showed signs of having been subjected to torture. Some were blindfolded and handcuffed. The graves were found in a town held by IS militants until government forces drove them out a year ago. Pope Francis has removed 2 cardinals from his group of close advisers known as the C9 after they were implicated in paedophile scandals. John McManus has the details.
There's been a growing tide of criticism against Pope Francis over his actions, or lack of them, in taking control of the sexual abuse scandal rocking the Catholic Church. This decisive move against 2 of his most high-profile advisers could well garner him praise from some critics. Cardinal George Pell is facing allegations of historical sexual abuse in Australia. Though he'll no longer be a member of the C9, he will stay in charge of the Vatican's finances, though he's on a leave of absence. Meanwhile, Francisco Javier Errázuriz, who's the retired Archbishop of Santiago, has been accused by some Catholics of covering up sexual abuse perpetrated by Chile's notorious paedophile priest, Fernando Karadima.
A decision by the government in Ghana to approve the use of drones to deliver medicine to remote areas of the country has drawn criticism from MPs. They say the money would be far better spent on hospital beds and ambulances instead of what they describe as a high-tech vanity project. An American company, Zipline, is to be paid over $12 million to run the scheme for 4 years. World Football's governing body FIFA has suspended the president of the Afghanistan Football Federation pending an investigation into allegations that some officials had sexually and physically abused players on the national women's team. A statement from FIFA's Ethics Committee said Keramuddin Keram had been provisionally banned from all national and international football-related activities for 90 days. The ban can be extended. BBC News.
You are listening to OS from the BBC World Service. I'm Nuala McGovern. Yes, I'm not usually on at this time, but an extra hour because this is a very specific day. Right now, it's 6 minutes past 6. That means that there are Conservative members of Parliament that are deciding whether to support or not basically have confidence or not in their leader, the British Prime Minister Theresa May. Now, this is something that happened very quickly. Yes, we were here on Monday talking about her Brexit deal and a vote to be postponed, but things have moved so quickly since then. I want to take a moment, however, to remind us how this day started. Mrs. May made a statement outside number 10 Downing Street. Let's listen.
I will contest that vote with everything I've got. I have been a member of the Conservative Party for over 40 years. I've served it as an activist, councillor, MP, shadow minister, Home Secretary, and now as Prime Minister. I stood to be leader because I believe in the Conservative vision for a better future, a thriving economy with nowhere and nobody left behind, a stronger society where everyone can make the most of their talents, always serving the national interest. A change of leadership in the Conservative Party now will put our country's future at risk and create uncertainty when we can least afford it. A new leader wouldn't be in place by the 21st of January legal deadline, so a leadership election risks handing control of the Brexit negotiations to opposition MPs in Parliament. The new leader wouldn't have time to renegotiate a withdrawal agreement and get the legislation through Parliament by the 29th of March, so one of their first acts would have to be extending or rescinding Article 50, delaying or even stopping Brexit when people want us to get on with it. Delivering the Brexit people voted for, building a country that works for everyone. I have devoted myself unsparingly to these tasks ever since I became Prime Minister, and I stand ready to finish the job.
She stands ready to finish the job, but will her fellow Conservative MPs give her that right to do it? Let me just talk through the numbers. 315 Conservative MPs. She needs a majority. We're talking about 158. They're already inside, beginning to vote. Just seeing one tweet from Conservative MP George Freeman saying, powerful and moving moment in the 1922 as the PM makes clear that she has listened, heard and respects the will of the party, that once she has delivered an orderly Brexit, she will step aside for the election of a new leader to lead the reunification and renewal we need. Respect, he says. That's one side. There's actually more than two sides, if we're honest about this story. Let me bring in Labour MP for Leeds Central, also chair of the Brexit Select Committee, Hilary Benn. Lovely to have you with us.
Good evening.
Thank you for spending some time with OS. As you watch the events unfold today, what are your thoughts?
Well, in one sense, it's not for me as a Labour member in Parliament to intrude on the private grief of the Conservatives, but they continue to pull themselves apart and rip themselves to pieces over the subject of Europe. You remember when David Cameron was elected, he said, I don't want to be the party that goes on batting on about Europe, but it's never ending. The thing, my overriding feeling is we are at a moment of crisis for the country. Now, having started this process, it'll be finished this evening, but tomorrow morning, if the Prime Minister survives the vote of confidence, we still face the same problem. Her deal doesn't look as if it's going to command the support of the House of Commons, and if, when she does bring it back, it's voted down, what are we going to do next? And that is what Parliament and all politicians of all parties need to focus on, rather than the spectacle that's taking place here today.
And I want to give our global listeners an idea of where you came from. You were tweeting recently that you were a Remainer, but you also voted to give the people a choice. And how can you go back on that? So what way forward do you see? What is the plan B?
Yes, I think leaving the European Union is a terrible mistake. I think it will weaken our economy. I think it will reduce our influence in the world. It will make it more difficult to address many of the reasons why people voted leave, which they feel very strongly about, which weren't actually to do with the European Union, but are to do with the nature of our society, stagnant wages, unfairness, inequality, change that people feel unhappy about. Now, I have argued for the last few months that the government should move towards a much closer economic relationship with the European Union, involving applying to become a member of the European Economic Area and remaining in a customs union. Why? Because it solves problem number one, the border in Northern Ireland, which we absolutely must keep as it is today, because that's not just about trade, it is about the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process. 2, it would ensure the continuation of easy, frictionless trade, which is so vital to the British economy and which has been built up over the years precisely because we've been in the single market and the customs union. It would keep our relationship in a number of agencies on consumer safety, aviation, and so on and so forth. And it is possible that the government might move in that direction, but they might not. There might not be a majority for that in the House of Commons, and therefore I think the other possibility now is that eventually Parliament will have to hand this back to the people to resolve.
You think it will be a second vote? Because we've had a lot, Rob and myself, from Oman, from Rwanda, right? So much interest around the world, many of them asking, can there be a second vote?
It's interesting, you know, we've had so many conversations. I remember, you probably won't remember this, Hillary, but I remember bumping into you not that long after the referendum, saying, "Oh my goodness, what do you think is going to happen?" And you were saying what you were saying just now, that you thought that it was a very bad thing for the UK that it was leaving the European Union. But what could you do? It's what people had voted for. But it does actually seem, doesn't it, as though the possibility of a second referendum, while maybe still an outside chance, is probably a bit higher than it was.
Yeah, I think, and I say that as someone who has not been arguing for a second referendum because we have an obligation to try and implement the mandate of the first. But the story of the last 2.5 years is that, if you like, the fantasy Brexit that was offered by some who argued for it has been shown not to exist. And it's been a painful process for the country to discover that those who said we'll hold all the cards, one of the easiest trade deals in history, all of those things that were said, it wasn't true. And the reason why the government is in difficulty is it has failed to be honest with the British people about the choices that we have to confront. And if you avoid choices, in the end it comes back and causes you problems.
Did you see the other day, though, you talk about having that European, more economic closeness, shall we say, and some people talk about the EFTA, the European Free Trade Association. We have Norway, Liechtenstein, Switzerland and Iceland. But it sounded to me from one of the Norway ministers that was speaking that they didn't want Britain in that club. So it's not just about what's happening within this country, it's outside this country and what people will be willing to allow the UK to do.
I think that's a perfectly fair point, but when we met Michel Barnier, Europe's chief negotiator, as the Select Committee, he said at our very first meeting, well, you can have a deal like Canada, you could have a deal like Norway. He said that, but of course you say you don't want it. Well, not us, but the Prime Minister says we're not having a deal like Norway. And I think that that is still possible. Clearly, it would mean a very different kind of EEA to the one that exists at the moment, because at the moment Norway is the biggest country in there, and suddenly the UK would come in, and it would take time to negotiate. But at least there would be clarity about where it is we're heading. My problem with the withdrawal agreement is not the bits to do with the border and the backstop and the money, the rights of citizens we must protect, we need a transition. It is the total lack of clarity about where we're going. And the Prime Minister is asking Parliament to say, take this step into the unknown, here's a menu of things we'd like to get, I can't promise you we'll get any of them. And that is not, I think, a step that Parliament could reasonably take, and that is why I will vote against her deal when she eventually brings it back and puts it before the Commons.
Shall we cross over? Hilary Benn, thank you very much for coming to spend some time with us on OS. We also have here with us somebody who has just voted, Kevin Holleray, coming in, a Conservative politician. Lovely to have you with us as well. So what did you vote?
To be here. I voted to support the Prime Minister, of course.
And you're telling me the truth, right? Because it's a secret ballot.
It is secret. But I nearly took a photo of my ballot paper, actually, if that would have been evidence. But
what does it look like? I am curious for our listeners around the world. There's such pomp and ceremony when it comes to British politics. What happens? Talk me through it.
It's about half the size of an A4 piece of paper, and it says 2 boxes on it. I have confidence in the Prime Minister. I don't have confidence in the Prime Minister. It's simple as that. So you go in, they tick your name off on the list of Conservative members, and you go off into your little kind of cubicle and put a tick in the box.
Goodness. What happened in there? Sorry.
Well, that's what I want to know as well. No, I want to know everything. I want to know, did she come beforehand?
Yeah.
Did she convince you beforehand? Were you always going to support her?
She came to the 1922 to talk to all the backbenchers.
This is the committee of
That's
Conservatives.
Right. But I had a debate, so I wasn't able to attend. I just saw the last few minutes of that. But to be honest, if you had to rely upon that to make your decision, you've not been listening for the last few years, particularly the last year, I would say. So I think at this point in time, people had a pretty good idea, or have a pretty good idea, whether they're going to support her or not, I guess.
How's it looking for her, do you think?
Good. I think she'll win, and then we can move on. This clears the air and lets us get on with delivering Brexit, which is going to be very challenging.
It means also, just for our listeners, that then there cannot be a challenge to her leadership for the next
12 months.
Next 12 months, and I almost said 12 years.
That would be better.
It might feel like this has been going on for a long time, but for 12 months. But with that, I mean, you were hearing Mr. Benn talking about looking for clarity, possibly second vote, I think, Rob, fair to say as well. You know, at least it's a potential that is floating in the ether.
Well, I think Mr. Benn's point was that let's say the sorry, it's Rob Watson here. I'm the World Service Political Correspondent. For some reason we haven't met. I mean, I think his point was just that even if she wins, that there's still all the uncertainty about what happens to her deal, or indeed what happens to Brexit. And I guess he's right, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true. You still have to negotiate the future framework for our trading partnership, and we set out, Chequers, they set out what that was likely to be, and it all depends on how much friction you want at the borders, and if it's a very, if our relationship is very arm's length and we have different regulations and different customs processes, there'll be more frictions at the borders.
But do you think that in the end, because I mean the arithmetic looks horribly difficult, doesn't it? That,
yes.
that her deal or some version of it gets through Parliament, or do you think that the government will have to come up with a different deal, or even if there's total stalemate, a second referendum?
I think this is the problem. One of the reasons why it's not a good idea to change leaders right now is the arithmetic's the same whoever is leading our party and leading the country. You know, there's not a majority for anything at this point in time, be that Canada or probably Norway or the Prime Minister's deal. And what she's trying to do now is go back to the European Union, go back and renegotiate this and make it more palatable, and hopefully then take it through. I think the good news is there's not a majority for no deal either, and lots of people in Parliament do not want to take a risk with people's jobs and businesses by going down the no deal route. So we will come up with something sensible at some point.
I think that's a very frank answer, by the way.
You know, I think we had some young Conservatives in here as well a little bit earlier, and I was quite struck with one of the young women that she was prepared for the no deal because she was so against the deal that was there at the moment. Just want to give some numbers on Reuters. Almost 200 Conservative MPs have publicly indicated support for the Prime Minister as the vote of no confidence begins. Really well underway. Was it busy in there?
Yes, packed, absolutely packed, and a big queue to get in and vote after the 22 meeting as well. So yes, very much so.
And we saw a tweet that somebody was in tears. You didn't see?
I didn't see. It wasn't me anyway. I didn't see that. No, definitely not. I don't know what that would be about.
But I guess it is a good idea to give our listeners an idea of just the sort of passion inside your party, inside the governing Conservative Party. I mean, there are a sort of a wing of your party, the enthusiastic Brexiteers. I mean, in many ways, they're rather different to the Conservative Party that's existed for 200 odd years of being immensely kind of pragmatic and not being very ideological. I mean, can the Conservative Party survive this, do you think?
Well, it's always been a coalition in one big party. That's the reality of the Conservative Party, and Labour's very similar too,
yes,
in that regard. But Brexit divides us, there's no question, but it also divides the country. So I think we're pretty reflective of where the country is. I mean, this is communities divided, families divided. This is such a divisive issue.
Kevin Aldrich, thank you very much. Also talking us through the process. It is fascinating, even if you were not following Brexit up until this point, just the politics and the way it carries out. Very interesting. One of the Conservative MPs voting to support Mrs May. BBC's Rob Watson with me here as well. But we're not just broadcasting from Westminster. We're also in probably the slightly warmer London newsroom.
And you're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good afternoon, actually. It's past the noontime hour here on Red River Radio, and I hope you're having a wonderful lunch break right now. We're taking a break from the BBC for just a moment. We were hearing about the Brexit turmoil over in England, and that's a solid story internationally and nationally as well, because, you know, what goes across the pond definitely is going to impact worldwide markets and those markets here in the United States, as British markets do affect what happens in our financial strata, so you want to pay attention to what's going on there. Just another example of the many different types of programs we offer here on Red River Radio, the BBC World News Service, All Things Considered, Morning Edition. These are just three of our key news programs that we offer you each and every day here on Red River Radio. And you know what? They're made possible because of the generosity of listeners, just like you, who value their local public radio station and its programs and think enough of it to pick up the phone, give us a call, and make a contribution. So how about you? Give us a call right now at 800-552-8502. Not only will you be providing support for your local public radio station, but you'll be allowing us to provide a backpack of food, about a week's worth of food, to a food-insecure child over the holidays. We're trying to raise enough money to get 2,400 backpacks, and so far we've got 179 backpacks paid for, and we're trying to get to a total of 800 today, 800 each day for our 3 days. You can do that with a contribution to your local public radio station. Give us a call, make a $25 contribution right now, and not only will you be helping Red River Radio, but we'll be giving a backpack, one each, to the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. So give us a call, 800-552-8502. Jesse Gilmore, he's the Director of Development for the LSU Health Foundation here in Shreveport. And Jesse, we appreciate you coming in and helping us out. And why do you support your local public radio station?
It's a service that I get so much out of, and it's very easy to give back to. I mean, I'm pretty open with this. I listen to Red River Radio when I get ready in the morning. I've got a shower speaker, and that's what I'm listening to as I'm getting ready. It keeps me informed. It lets me start the day with. It kind of frames my day with what's going on in the world, what's going on in my community here as well. And then in the evenings, I get to catch some evening jazz. Occasionally, I host Health Matters, which is in my industry. So I get an awful lot out of this, and it's so easy to give back. And I'm a professional fundraiser. I get to come on the air and speak to thousands of people at once, where normally I'm used to talking to one person at a time. So I think it's a great use of my time to volunteer to do something which I think is so important to the community. And I just got to go on a tangent for 2 seconds. Just listen to the Brexit news on BBC. Chuck, did you see the video of Theresa May getting stuck in her car yesterday?
No, I didn't.
She shows up in mainland Europe to meet with Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, and there's this hilarious video of Merkel on the red carpet waiting for Theresa May, and she gets locked in her car, and her aides can't get her out for a minute.
Oh, no.
And if there's not, like, some kind of symbolism there for Brexit, I don't know.
Oh, man. That's, gosh, a cringeworthy moment.
Look it up. It's hysterical.
Oh, yeah. Check out your YouTube or Google video. Oh, my God. That's...
But on this topic of this drive, and why I think it's so important, feeding these children, you really are giving a bag of food to a child that needs it, wants it, and is excited for it. My girlfriend Valerie and I have put together backpacks for the Renzi Center the past couple of years, and that's during the summertime when they don't have access to really secure meals all the time. We just kind of went to our coworkers and put together canned goods and some healthy foods and things like that. And when you hand these out to children, they are it's like you gave them a toy or something. It's like they're super excited that somebody would do this for them. And kids love snacks, science says.
Oh,
so
I like snacks.
Exactly. So I can guarantee you, folks, if you make a contribution today, 3 children in 3 different communities, you will make their day.
You definitely will. And, we take the holidays, many of us do anyway, for granted. I mean, we're busy with the hustle and bustle, the shopping we need to do, the gift wrapping, the hurry up and get work done so you can take off for the holidays. And then most of us are going to sit down to a fantastic meal on Christmas Day, and then we'll have leftovers. We'll be saying, oh, take this pie home with you. And someone says, oh, no, I can't. I've got enough at home already. And we have this problem with people bringing too much food during a family gathering. And so, we've never wanted for everything in my adult life. I remember when I was a kid, my dad was a low-paid military sergeant back in the 60s, and, we scraped by back then. But, I'm fortunate to have the financial status to have a wonderful life, and but I stop and think of those who are less fortunate. And, when I read the statistics, it just still makes me cringe in what we all assume to be the greatest country in the world, yet we still have such a hunger problem all around us. 1 in 5 families in the Red River Radio listening area, think about this, 1 in 5 families are food insecure. And of those families, 30% are children. All right? So when you go and shop and all that, and maybe if you pay attention to those around you, and you might see people whose baskets aren't quite as full because they don't have the financial means to really have a super, super holiday feast, remember, you can make a difference right now. Call 800-552-8502. Make a contribution, say $25 in support of your local public radio station. In turn, we will take that money and provide 3 backpacks, okay? A backpack each to the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank's backpack program for kids. So call now, won't you? 800-552-8502. You know, we've got 3 days to do this, and so far we're at about 180 backpacks raised so far. We're trying to get 800 backpacks each day, a total of 2,400. And we just got 3 days to do this, so please don't delay, don't wait, don't put it off, don't forget. Call now, 800-552-8502.
Also tumultuous for Germany. We saw the other day AKK beginning to take over the leadership of the CDU from Angela Merkel. But Angela Merkel has really, as Chancellor, been the leader when it comes to the EU. So how is this divorce going down?
First of all, hello, thank you very much for having me. Yes, of course, like in Germany, it's a huge thing as well. Although I think it was always a bit overestimated in the UK, the role of Angela Merkel and Germany. And she always made very clear that it's the EU 27 negotiating with the UK, not only Germany. Although, like yesterday only, Theresa May was in Berlin and tried in a last pledge, basically, to get more out of the EU.
Thanks very much to Catherine and to Antonello. They are watching it, trying to make sense of it, to feed it back to their audiences in both Italy and Germany. We are here outside the British Parliament for OS from the BBC World Service because we want to make sense of what's happening right now for you. We are expecting a result on that confidence vote for Theresa May in about 90 minutes from now, so do stay with the BBC World Service. Also another half hour to come of this programme where we want to bring you some more of the MPs and the opinions that are taking place all around me.
You're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. We're breaking away from the BBC World Service, and as you've been paying attention to the coverage there, they're talking about a possible vote of confidence going on for Theresa May, the Prime Minister of England, regarding the Brexit plans, and that's an important story that we're happy to be able to cover through the BBC World News Service. And the BBC is paid for by listeners like you who value their local public radio station and call in and make a contribution. So why don't you give us a call right now at 800-552-8502 and pledge your support to your local public radio station. And if you make a contribution right now, you'll not only be helping public radio thrive in your area, but you'll be supporting 3 very worthwhile organizations as well: the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. How are you going to do that? The money you provide us allows us to provide a backpack of food, about a week's worth of food, to a food insecure child over the holidays, and we do this through these organizations. This is our 2nd year for doing this during the holidays. It was well received last year, and we're hoping for the same this year. We need to raise 2,400 backpacks. So far, we're about 180 backpacks, and we'd like to get 800 backpacks a day. And the way we can do this is through your support. So call us now at 800-552-8502. Jesse Gilmore's in the studio with me. Jesse, we were talking about, you know, the reasons why we support public radio, and you had talked about the things you do in the community by providing food to needy families in other areas. But why would this backpack drive be such a slam dunk in your opinion?
We've talked about this before. Obviously, if you're listening today, you're a supporter on some level of public radio. You're a supporter of what we do here at the station. And I've always had a hunch that folks that choose to be listening to NPR, to be listening to some of the programs we have, and even classical music, I feel like you care. You care a little more than the average person. And you have the opportunity today to support your local station. and to support children in 3 different regions that make up our largest listening area in the nation for public radio. So why not do that? And I've got a challenge for you, too. You know, on the way over here, I went and stopped and picked up some gas, and I paid $1.92 a gallon, that's the cheapest I remember since, I don't even know, maybe when I was a kid or something. And we're already fortunate in this listening area to have probably the cheapest gas prices in the country.
Oh, yeah.
With all the production and all the refining we do here in the state of Louisiana.
It's
and in East Texas.
$1.87 in my neighborhood.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe 3 weeks ago you were paying $2.12, $2.20, whatever. That's about $5 of savings probably for your average tank.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're going to get gas in the next 3 days, and you usually listen to the radio when you're in the car, when you're stopping at the pump, make a call. Call 1-800-552-8502 and give a little lagniappe this holiday season.
Absolutely.
Buy some kids some food.
Yeah, I mean, you know, think about it. You know, kind of pay it forward is the way I look at it. You know, if I'm fortunate, when I look at the price of gas, and this is the time of year where I write checks to my, you know, places. I donate to, you know, children's health hospitals and things like that. You know, the American Cancer Society is an important organization to me, and there's a number of others that I do as well. But, you know, if I'm paying less at the pump, I know for like you said, it's about a $4 to $5 savings a whop. And if you fill up 2 or 3 times a month or more, that savings really adds up. Now, sure, you can say, well, I can have an extra cheeseburger or something, or, you know, that extra special coffee drink. But why not take that windfall and just roll it into a contribution to Red River Radio? Say if it's $5 a month, that's $60 a year. You can have it on an installment. Just when you call in, tell them I'd like to, you know, maybe make $60 contribution and spread it out over 12 months. You'll be supporting your local public radio station, but you'll also help us give a backpack of food, 3 backpacks of food to these different organizations. And, you know, it helps us pay it forward as well. So give us a call at 800-552-8502. I also want to have a shout out to a local business that supports public radio. Red River Radio thanks Pita De Nova for lunch today. They're here on Uri Drive across from LSUS.
They're so good.
Oh, don't they have some great food?
So good.
I love their food, you know, the falafels and, just everything. And Pita De Novo is a business that values its local public radio station. They support public radio through these donations of food for our staff and volunteers during Pledge. And they also appreciate the type of listener we attract here on Red River Radio. I think people who listen to public radio in general are more curious about the world around them and want to become better informed. And they also want to do good. And one way to do good is to support your local public radio station with a contribution, whatever amount. We appreciate it. And whatever amount you make a contribution to Red River Radio, you allow us to provide a backpack of food. Of course, the more the merrier. So far, we're about 180 backpacks. We need to get 800 today, a total of 2,400 throughout the 3-day pledge drive. We can do that with your assistance. So give us a call, won't you, at 1-800-552-8502, or go online to redriverradio.org and click on the donate button near the top of the page. Either way, it's a fast, simple way for you to be a member and to support your local public radio station and to give a food insecure child a gift of a holiday meal for a week through our backpack program. Call now, won't you?
Do it.
I wrote a memo to the senior staff memorializing that idea, and then flash forward a year and a half or 2 years later, and sure enough, that happened, which nobody thought, including me, would happen. So I had to walk into McCain with the memo and say, Senator, I don't know if you remember this. And then, you know, typical McCain fashion, he grabbed me, hugged me, and said, I love you, man. Thanks for helping me get here. And it would be very un-McCain-like to do anything but honor your word.
Brooke Buchanan was recruited by McCain to work as his campaign press secretary.
For a political hack like me, it was meeting the rock star. It was meeting someone who I looked up to for many, many years. And he fulfilled all of those expectations and even more. You know, he was a force to be with and be around. And no matter what was happening in difficult situations, we were in difficult places, or we were just riding on the bus on the presidential campaign, he made you feel alive and that you were part of something much bigger than yourself.
McCain won the nomination and determined to shake up.
Listen, there's a lot happening outside, not too far from where I am. That vote of confidence is underway for the British Prime Minister Theresa May. We'll know the outcome probably in about 90 minutes time or so. We're going to connect with some of the people that we met around the UK on our Brexit tour in just a couple of minutes time. Alexis in Grimsby. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Nice to hear your voice again. Stuart in Ulster, who is a butcher. Hi, Stuart.
Hi there. Hi there.
Hi. Nice to have you with us. And also Robert, owner of the River House in Coleraine. Robert, we're going to come to you in just a moment. What I want to do, though, first is talk a little bit more about this vote that is taking place right now. How does it work? What would happen next? Let's hear more from Emily Horler from the OS team.
Under the party's rules, at least 15% of Conservative MPs must write a letter of no confidence for a leadership challenge to be made possible. That works out as 48 MPs, and that point has now been passed. The vote is a secret ballot, where all 315 Conservative MPs can say whether they want Theresa May to continue. To win, she needs to secure 158 votes. That's made up of a total of half of her MPs plus one. If that happens, she'll be immune from another challenge for 1 year. But if she loses, there'll be a leadership contest, and she'll be barred from standing. There is a third option. Theresa May wins, but only by a few votes. She might then consider if she has enough backing in Parliament and think about resigning. There would be a leadership contest if she did resign. How would a leadership contest work? The 1922 Committee, which is the organisation representing all backbench Conservative MPs, decides the procedure and sets the timeline for a leadership contest. It would likely follow this format. To enter the race, prospective leaders need to be nominated by 2 Tory MPs. Only 2 candidates are allowed to compete against each other in the leadership race. If more than 2 want to stand, then MPs run a series of ballots to get the list down to 2. The lowest ranking person is eliminated after each round. Then, ordinary party members around the country vote. The 2 candidates will be expected to take part in debates to put their cases forward to members before the final voting deadline. They can withdraw between rounds, and if all but one withdraw, the one remaining candidate will become leader with no need for a vote from members. Unless there's a general election, the winner of any Tory leadership contest would also become Prime Minister.
Thanks, Emily. I actually want to update just on some of those figures that Emily was giving us, because now there are 2 Conservative MPs that were previously suspended that have been restored to the party. So now we've got 317 MPs voting, and it sounds like from our guests that it was a pretty packed room. So 159 votes are needed to win. Will she make it? We'll find out. Stay with the BBC. Now, let us return to our guests that we met as we toured the UK, talking about Brexit from their perspectives. Shall we begin with Alexis in Grimsby? How are you watching this, Alexis? I know you voted to remain, but I mean, it's not just Mrs. May and her leadership, but it's her deal too that's in jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following it, you know, listening to the radio as I can during the day, and I think really the impression from, you know, not being in Westminster and not being in London and being on the outside of that is really just kind of watching them play this out. You know, there isn't any clarity about a decision, and they haven't got behind their leader. I think the cancelling of the vote, the deferment of the vote, has also kind of set her on this path. But I actually think she's kind of been very resilient, and there's been a lot of tenacity in terms of how she's tried to approach this. And I'm not really sure who could step into that and actually carry on the job.
It's Rob Watson here, Alexis. I bet you wouldn't like to swap jobs, eh?
Alexis is a psychotherapist, so maybe he's needed down here.
Actually, okay, Alexis, you need to get down here pretty quick.
Jump on the train.
If I could say something in defence of the politicians, that's going to shock everybody. I'm sure a lot of people around the country do think, oh, why don't these wretched people just sort of get on with something and agree with something? I mean, I think when it comes to Brexit, there are some just sort of genuinely disagreements of principle. So, for example, those in the Conservative Party are very, very strongly pro-Brexit. I mean, these people feel a passion about their subject that is, it's like nothing else to behold, and they just feel that Britain must leave the European Union. There are other people who think that leaving is utterly insane and that something should be done about it, and then there's a sort of group of MPs in the middle who think that Brexit is about making the best of a bad job, and I suspect Theresa May is in there.
Let us bring in Stuart. Now, you voted to leave, Stuart, right? And these are Conservative MPs, and really, I think the infighting is all about how to leave. Would you like to see Mrs. May continue in her role?
Well, yes, I am a Leave voter, and hello everyone. Yes, I am a Leave voter. Yes, I would like her to carry on. I think she's been handed a poison chalice. Whoever was there would be in the same situation. You can't appease everyone. Unfortunately, the government do look a shambles at the moment when they're fighting each other. They can't agree on nothing.
But Stuart, sorry to interrupt, Stuart. I was going to say, but do you accept as a Leave voter that some of that is just because leaving the European Union is just not as straightforward as people might have hoped or expected?
Oh, definitely so. I know it's not going to be no straightforward job, isn't it? You know, we've been in the European Union now since, was it 1973, the common market? We're intertwined 45 years of business and partnership. This is not going to be easy at all. We do know this is very difficult ahead. But I do think Mrs. May deserves a lot of credit. She has got the tenacity. She has got. She knows what she wants. She sticks to it. But also, going forward, I think us public. I'm just a normal shopkeeper, a family man. Works hard for his living. We want some end game. We need this to happen. Either it's going to happen or not. But I would like it to happen.
Let's cross over to Northern Ireland, to Coleraine, and to Robert, who's a local businessman there. Also, I think you voted to leave, but you're a little bit more, what would I say, doubtful. Is that fair, Robert?
Well, I'm being realistic. I voted for Brexit, and I think that the opportunity was a fantastic opportunity. But opportunities are only any good when you make the most of them. We all get them, but it's what you do with it. And I think that it hasn't been done well with. I think that she's missed the boat. I think this is way too little too late. This should have been in this position a year ago. We should have been in a position where the negotiations had been brought to a point of maturity much, much sooner. And here we are now looking at the finish line in sort of panic. And it's no wonder there's a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. I can understand that. I have very little confidence in her.
What would you like to see happen to Mrs. May? And it's just an hour and 15 minutes of voting left, this secret ballot, looking for 159 of her fellow Conservatives to support her.
Well, it's too late. I think that she's got herself into this position because she's left the whole thing too late. Look, if you're in business, and we are all in business, and she's looking after the business of our country, the governance and relationships, that's all about how we trade, how we live, how we socialise and how we move. This should be done quickly. You have to strike early, get good deals, good negotiation positions and get them firm. Now we're into disaster recovery. We're the laughingstock of Europe. In fact, we're the laughingstock of the world, bar maybe one.
Sorry, it's Rob here, Robert. How are you this afternoon?
I'm very well.
Just because Theresa May isn't here to defend herself and is in fact rather busy trying to defend herself, not very far away from us. I guess what she would say, Robert, and this is sort of picking a bit up on Stuart's point, that Britain's membership of the European Union is not like being a member of a golf club. That if you sort of stop paying your dues, it's not the end of the world if you leave. You're not playing golf on a Friday. That Britain, and for better or worse, and the European Union are so closely tied. And for example, I mean, if one just took the car industry here in the UK and its supply chain, I mean, I think it's something like I think the Japanese car manufacturers, they have 1 million parts move backwards and forwards in a calendar month between their various bits in Europe and their bits here. That what the Prime Minister and others have found in trying to do what you suggest, which, strike while the iron is hot and leave, is just that it's fantastically difficult, and that the reason it's taken this long isn't because they're sort of dithering by nature, but that it's just immensely complicated. Do you accept that at all, Robert?
I do, actually. I mean, I absolutely do, and I sympathise. But it was clear, it had to be a bit clearer, a bit sooner. So, either that or this period isn't long enough for the leave. And we might find that that's the case.
And just jumping in here, because you are uniquely placed, Robert, for us. We've had a number of MPs going through. We've basically in a little tent here, a very chilly little tent. 4 degrees, if anybody's wondering, because I always feel on the radio you need to know what it smells like and what it feels like as we tell you where we are. But this issue of a border, how do you feel about it? Because we've had questions from people as far away as Rwanda, Oman, Australia, wondering, can that be resolved? Can it, in your eyes?
Yes, better than resolved. It's a fantastic opportunity. We are where we are. I voted for Brexit, but we are today where we are. And this goes back to how you introduced me.
But what do you see it, Robert? And sorry, just to be really specific, what do you see? A hard border? What do you see between the north and the south?
Well, I see an opportunity to provide, to turn Northern Ireland into a Hong Kong, to turn it into a Monaco. There could be an opportunity here for Northern Ireland to have unique status without a hard border. Now, I can't answer the question about hard and soft and how the technology may or may not work. That's going to be very difficult. But I don't think it's going to be black and white. I think it's going to be a number of measures, maybe up to 20 measures.
Interesting, because I hear what you're saying, Robert, and I find it very interesting because for the people I've been speaking to, for which the backstop, which is the issue, the guarantee that comes with Northern Ireland and the border, it is black and white to them. You know, the people who are in there, particularly the people who are voting for no confidence in Mrs. May, they really are upset with the way it has transpired with Northern Ireland and not being unilaterally able to get out of that backstop agreement. Rob Watson has had to run. He's a busy man. I'm glad I was able to hold on to him for an hour and 45 minutes. The BBC's Naomi Grimley, though, has sat down in her seat. Hello, Naomi. Not at all. We're delighted to have you. We're basically, a lot of our correspondents are serving, as you can imagine, many outlets which we have, whether it's both national or international. So we're very happy to have them and to speak about some of these main issues that are taking place, the main one at the moment, the secret ballot. Let me return Alexis who's in Grimsby. Alexis, you've heard Stuart and Robert speak there. They come from a different perspective than you do. As a psychotherapist, do you see unification in the future? Do you see a way of crossing this divide?
In my crystal ball.
Yeah, go on.
I think there has to be some kind of unification in the future. You know, it's split as much as it can be at the moment. That's, you know, why we've got all these kind of cracks appearing, and, you know, the system is working in the way that it is or not working in the way that it is. And I think there has to be at some point an acceptance that the position that we're in and the deal that we have, whatever that will look like in the end, and actually moving forward with it and then negotiating from there.
Thank you very much for that, and to all my guests that have been joining us. We keep on returning to them because we want to get outside of, sometimes this is called a Westminster bubble, isn't it, Naomi?
It is. It's like inside the Beltway in Washington, the equivalent.
Exactly, and instead what we're doing here is going to Grimsby, also to Warwickshire, also to Coleraine in Northern Ireland. I want to bring in some WhatsApp messages that we have been getting. Naomi, you're going to be on the hot seat to answer them. I think we're going to start with one that came in from Dubai, maybe even two.
Good evening, BBC. This is Vivek from Dubai. I think for non-British people watching this whole Brexit saga, it's a bit baffling because the British already had their own currency and are not as controlled by Brussels or Germany like the other 27 members. They have their own migrant policy, which is not bound to the EU. They enjoyed free borders and intelligence sharing as well, right? Isn't the British economy mainly a service-based economy? They are not big manufacturers like Germany or the others. And for a service-based economy, you would expect them to be part of unions, right? Not just the EU, but a lot of other unions as well. Anyone would think they already had a very good deal going. Can someone explain to me on what exactly they're gaining from this deal, apart from inflating their English egos? Thanks.
I'm just going to stop Vivek for 1 second. He also says English, which many people have said to us instead of British when they talk about Britain leaving the European Union. It's interesting the role that England seems to have within it. But let me return to his question as he asks, what do they hope to gain?
I think that's a very good question. A lot of people have been asking what happens if Britain wants to rejoin the EU in a few years' time. And the answer is that they would actually probably have to sign up to a whole host of things that they don't currently sign up to in the EU.
Because they've got a pretty good deal, many people would have thought, within the EU.
They've historically managed to arrange various opt-outs and rebates on budgets that actually, David Cameron argued during the referendum, was tantamount to a pretty good deal already. So, for example, if they did later down the line want to rejoin the EU, they might have to sign up to the Euro or to the Schengen free zone, travel-free zone. So that is a very good point that some people would argue at the moment they pretty much have the best of both worlds. And in the Brexiteers' argument, even there is some acknowledgement that Theresa May's deal might leave Britain worse off than it currently is. Some of them acknowledge that in terms of having a say in the way laws are made. Obviously, they want to break free altogether, but you know, there is an argument that as it stands at the moment, Britain has a very good deal.
And also, I suppose, what we're hearing from just even some of the people who had voted to leave there a few moments ago is this issue of sovereignty, is this issue for a new start, opportunities that they feel are not possible within the European Union.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the main arguments for the Brexiteer camp, is that Britain can sort of set out on its own path, that it wouldn't be in the orbit of the EU anymore, and that's what they don't like about Theresa May's deal, because they believe it hitches the UK to the EU for longer than ideally it should be.
Shall we take a message from Oman? This one, a text message that came into us, Sanchit. Hi, Sanchit. Thanks for sending it. What would be the implications, Naomi, if Article 50 was cancelled? Would the UK-EU relationship return to normal? Would all that has been said be forgotten? Sanjay, that is a great line. And Article 50 is what was triggered to start that process of Britain leaving the EU.
It was the 2-year clock counting down to March of 2019 when Britain will leave. Well, we heard this week that the UK could unilaterally decide to just pull the plug on that.
That was a ruling from the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg.
That's right. And so in a way, that is the EU. That judgment came through much quicker than it would normally do. And so many people interpreted that as the EU saying, if you want to change your mind, it's not too late. Would things return to normal? Well, as I was saying, you know, if Britain did want to stay in the EU, it might not find it has quite the good deal it does at the moment, because clearly this whole process will have squandered a lot of goodwill along the way.
I know, and that's kind of why I was asking Alexis as well, as a psychotherapist, whether she thinks there can be some sort of reunification, because I have heard that from listeners, from voters, as we went around, that, you know, there's division at the dinner table. It's not just within their cities, you know, that there is really something that is very deep that will need to be rectified in some way. Naomi, where are we at this point?
Well, let's take a time check. It's 5 to 7 in the evening. That means we're halfway through the ballot that's taking place in a room in the heart of the Houses of Commons and the House of Commons. So in an hour, that vote will be over. There will then be another hour while the votes are counted, and then we'll hear what Theresa May's future will be. She needs, just a reminder, she needs to win at least 50%, a simple majority of 317 MPs in her party.
70. And you know what, actually, I was seeing that it is, I believe, 1 5 now. They have 2 suspended MPs that have been restored to the party.
Yes, in fact, one was disgraced over a sort of scandal involving, sexual text to a woman. He's actually been reinstated.
And all hands on deck?
And he will vote for Theresa May. So some feminists are saying tonight that they think that's disgraceful.
Well, let me stop there for a second. So was he asked his opinion first and then reinstated?
Well, he has been reinstated. Another MP who also had been expelled from the party, he has been reinstated. They'll actually cancel each other out because one is pro-May, the one I just mentioned. The other one is anti-May.
So this is taking place. We were speaking to Kevin Hollenrake, who said that the room is packed, that there was a queue outside it as people were going in to cast their ballot. And it was a very simple ballot, almost like Brexit. It was like, do you support or not support? You put your X, and that's it. But we are expecting a result in probably about not too much longer after 8 o'clock, so probably about an hour and...
I think it'll take about an hour. Most people are expecting it to come through by 9 local time London.
9 local time in London. What's happening outside now?
Outside on this patch of grass.
Or maybe mud bath, as I was calling it. So many people have trampled.
It's a total circus. It really is. There are lots of members of the media from all across the world. CNN, by the way, was carrying Prime Minister's Question Time live on their international output earlier, which is very unusual. They wouldn't normally do that, especially for a big news day in America. There are lots of protesters, some waving EU flags, some waving placards. There's a real sense of sort of people coming down to look at the circus that's going on.
And it is the most magnificent buildings, right? The Houses of Parliament here, the Palace of Westminster. I mean, it is stunning every time you go by it. And as I mentioned, it's this fresh, cold night, dark outside, but the lights are on. There are people home tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And you really get a sense of the story moving. I've just walked past Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is one of the chief
critics of
Theresa May. He's on his way into the television studios, presumably to do more interviews. So, you know, a real sense that the story is moving as we speak.
Well, do stay with the BBC. Thanks very much to Naomi Grimley and, of course, my colleague Rob Watson for helping us tell the story. That voting continues, as we mentioned, for another hour. See if Mrs May can continue on with her job of leading Britain out of the European Union and as Prime Minister. There will be continued coverage on the World Service of the developments here at Westminster, home of the British Parliament. The newsroom is next. In an hour, Jamie Kumarasamy will be in this same spot, keeping the seat warm for him, with NewsHour if all goes according to plan, and he should be on air when we hear about the outcome of this confidence vote. Thanks very much for spending some of your time with OS.
That was the BBC World Service here on your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good afternoon, I'm Chuck Smith. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. We are in our holiday pledge drive right now. For the next 3 days, we're going to kind of pop in and out of programs to remind you that this is a public radio station. That means we are commercial-free. We receive more than 60% of our funding from listeners who call in and make a contribution to support their local public radio station. So now's the time to do that. If you haven't done so in a while, or say you've never done it, well, why not do something and give us a call, 800-552-8502. And if you make a contribution to Red River Radio, you'll allow us to provide a backpack of food to a food-insecure child over the holidays. It's part of our Christmas backpack program. We've partnered up with several different people. I just need to say a quick thank you out to John Gale and Ann Gramillion, Rabbi Jana, and the B'nai Zion Congregation, Kilpatrick Life Insurance, Roseneath Foundation, Havard and Nellie Lyons, the Bendersky family, an anonymous mother who believed no child should go hungry, and the Austin Bank in Nacogdoches. We're partnering in with the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank for the backpacks. So help us provide a week's worth of food to a food-insecure child over the holidays. In the studio with me, Jesse Gilmore with the LSU Health Foundation in Shreveport. He's the Director of Development. Jesse, it's been great having you on the air with us, and always appreciate your support and the good things you do for the community and for us as well.
Well, thank you so much, Chuck. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be on with you. And I think we've had a pretty good couple of hours. I've got a couple more people to thank before I duck on out of here. I'd like to thank Amy Maurer, I hope I pronounced that right. There's a few R's in there. And she made a very generous donation for this backpack campaign. I mean, Amy, super. That's really, really great. And I'd also like to thank my friend, Madison Poche from the Shreveport Regional Arts Council. She made a nice donation for the backpack campaign as well. She says she loves the news, and wait, don't we all, Madison? So thanks again to everybody who called in past couple hours. Chuck, I wish you all the best, and I wish everybody, I hope everyone had a happy Hanukkah, and they'll have a Merry Christmas later on.
Absolutely. Well, Jesse, again, thank you so much. And before you go, I do want to remind everybody that we are trying to reach 800 backpacks for the day, a total of 2,400 backpacks over our 3-day pledge drive. So far, as of 12:40, we've had at least 62 people call in and make a contributions. That means we've got 185 backpacks filled so far. So help us reach 800 by the end of our day today. We're trying to get 2,400 over the next 3 days. And this is just our way of helping give back to the community. You know, we are your local public radio station. We are a community service in that we provide information on the arts and entertainment and give voice to groups that otherwise might not get coverage through the traditional media. For example, we do live programs here from local artists, and there's no other radio station within probably a 200-mile radius that does live music on a consistent basis and giving people a chance to have their talents and passions be heard over the air. So we do a lot here, and it's all because of you. It costs about $106 an hour to keep Red River Radio on the air, and we're trying to balance up our books for the end of the year so that we can make sure all our bills are paid. But in the meantime, we're also trying to feed some people. 1 in 5 families are food insecure in the Red River Radio listening area, and 30% of those are children. Imagine being a child at home during the holiday break and not being too sure about if you're going to have a hot meal that day. Well, this is what happens all too frequently. You know, kids are, their lifelines are school lunch programs and morning breakfast programs, but when school's out for the week during the holidays, they may not have a full course of meals during the day. So a backpack of food will feed a child for a week. And as Jesse said earlier, when he's worked with food programs and give boxes of foods to kids, their eyes light up. So let's help spread some of this holiday cheer. Give us a call, make a contribution to your local public radio station at 800-552-8502. And whatever amount you contribute goes a long way, and we'll be able to not only keep public radio on the air, but we'll also be able to provide a week's worth of food to a child during the holidays. 1-800-552-8502. Want to remind you, you're listening to Public Radio, Red River Radio, a public radio service of LSUS. This is 89.9 FM, KDAQ, Shreveport, Bossier City, 90.7 KLSA, Alexandria, Pineville, 90.9 KBSA, El Dorado, Camden, Magnolia, 88.9 KLDN, Lufkin, Nacogdoches, and our newest station, 100.7 FM, KTYK, Overton, Tyler, Kilgore. This is your local public radio station, Red River Radio, the voice of the community.
If you tuned in the middle of that piece and wondered, what instrument is that? Well, it's called the lute harpsichord. Played like the harpsichord, strung like a lute with gut strings. And it's music of Johann Sebastian Bach. We heard his Fantasia Adorando in C minor, recorded by Robert Hill.
And you're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good afternoon, I'm Chuck Smith. We're going to get back to our music here in just a moment. But before we do, remember, this is our Christmas backpack program. We've cooperated with some groups to try to spread some Christmas holiday cheer to some food-insecure kids over the holidays. You know, 1 in 5 families in the Red River Radio listening area is what you call food insecure. And what that simply means is that those families don't always quite have the resources to make sure that they've got good, nutritious meals every single day. And, you know, kids, when they go to school, they've got their school lunch programs, they've got the morning breakfast programs, preschool programs, all those kinds of things. But, you know, think about it. When they take off for the Christmas holidays, you know, when the schools shut down for about a week or so, they may not always have a hot meal every single day. And can you imagine waking up on Christmas Day and being a kid? And it's supposed to be a magical time of year, right? You know, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, no matter what circumstances my families were in at the time, we always managed to get by and we always had hot meals around. But for many kids, it's just not that way, unfortunately. Here's where you can step in and really make a difference in a child's life during the holidays. If you call in right now to Red River Radio and make a contribution in support of your public radio station, that money will not only support public radio, but will also be able to provide a backpack of food, about a week's worth, to a hungry child throughout the Red River Radio listening area. We got 3 groups we're dealing with, and each one will get a backpack courtesy of you. You just got to call and make a contribution and supply a gift of a check or credit card payment, whatever, to Red River Radio, and we'll provide a backpack of food to the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank as well. So you'll be supporting not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 worthwhile organizations. And with your help, a lot of magic can be spread out throughout the Red River Radio listening area. So give us a call, won't you? Make a $25 contribution, and you'll help pay for public radio programs like the BBC World News Service, All Things Considered, Morning Edition News, as well as all the many different programs that we provide, and feed children who might not otherwise have a Merry Christmas. So call now, won't you? 800-552-8502. In the studio with me right now, we've got someone from the, the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank. I'm sorry, it's Meg, right?
That's right.
Okay, Meg, what's your last name?
It's Coleman.
Coleman. Hi, Meg. We appreciate you coming in, and tell us what you do at the Food Bank.
Thank you for having us. I am the development director at the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, and I work with Martha Merrick, who's the executive director.
We know Martha for sure. Yeah, well, great. Is this your first time helping out on Red River Radio?
It absolutely is.
Excellent.
Yes, very happy about it.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. This is a busy time of year for you guys, and I did a story recently. Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards and Donna Edwards, they made an appeal to remind people that, a lot of food banks are stressed because of all the tragedies and catastrophes that they've been called upon to help provide food for people, whether it's the flooding that's been going on or fires or whatever. And so the shelves are kind of, they're not as full as you guys would like. Is that right?
That is absolutely true. This year we actually have seen a decline in contributions as far as food drives and that sort of thing. So yes, we are all lacking all the resources that we need to help our community. So.
Well, now's the time. If anyone hearing this right now, and you think about the end of year gift giving as far as maybe making charitable contributions, gosh, I can't think of a better way to really spread some cheer and make your dollars go a lot further than to A, support your local public radio station, and B, you'll be providing a backpack of food for a week, about a week's worth of food, to a needy child in the Red River Radio listening area. And we've got 3 wonderful organizations that we're partnering with. And last year this was so well received that we wanted to do it again because, this is a time of year to really give and really help. And, it's hard to think of people not having enough to eat in this day and age when we live in such a wonderful country. But if you look around, every time you go grocery shopping, I tend to notice that, there's sometimes I see people with baskets that aren't quite so full because they just don't have the resources. And that's what this is meant to help out with. So Give us a call, please, at 800-552-8502. Meg, before we get back into our programming, is there anything else you'd like to add for the minute or so we got left?
Well, I just would like to say that we are in Northwest Louisiana. We are have some of the poorest parishes in the country, and children also suffer because of that. So the backpack program and offering food to children on the weekends helps not only the children with their education, their behavior, their attendance, their physical health. It also relieves the parents of some burdens. Some of these parents are hardworking parents, single mothers, some with cancer. So this backpack program is just a tremendous help and relieve some burden on some of these families.
It really, really will. And you might not think about it, but just one hot meal a day. One hot meal a day can be a real deal breaker for somebody. I mean, it's hard to think about that, but if you can provide a backpack, that goes a long way, and it's a great gift, and you'll be doing some wonderful, wonderful things for our community. So why not give us a call right now, won't you, at 800-552-8502, or if you'd rather do it online, let's say, you just don't have time to talk to anybody and you'd rather just do it online, go to redriverradio.org, click on the donate button near the top, fill out the form. Either way, you'll spend at max 2.5, 3 minutes tops to make the difference in a child's life during the holidays. So call now, won't you? 800-552-8502. We appreciate you listening, and we thank you for your support. This is Red River Radio, the voice of the community.